Where's Rick Salmeri? Rick is going to introduce our next inductee.
I'd like to thank Terry for keeping it short and succinct.
Thank you.
So anyway, I'm here to introduce Dave Everingham, and we met about 20 years ago coaching our son's 10-year-old all-star team. And I didn't know Dave at the time. In our first practice out there, I noticed that this guy really knows what he's doing. He's got some game. And I actually learned a lot because I never played infield, and he was coaching the infield guys, so I actually learned a lot about infield. So not only is he good in baseball, but he's a baseball nut. You ask him any trivia question about baseball, he's going to know it. So anyway, we ended up coaching a lot of teams together, and I finally got him out to play with the Tigers with us about 15 years ago. And we played in the Tigers together, and then we kind of went off different teams. We ended up playing on Buzzards together. And one of the best games I can remember, we were playing the championship, and I caught, Dave pitched, and I don't think he ever shook me off. We were in sync that day. We ended up winning the championship, the first time the Buzzards won it, as I recall. So that was kind of cool. So I don't have anything prepared, so I'm just going to wing it here. So there's a few things you don't know about Dave. For instance, he's a great fan of America, the band America. I'm sure he likes America, but it's the band America. He has seen them 58 times. He was fortunate enough to go backstage on one of the concerts. It didn't go well. He tried to name the horse, so they said, you got to get out of here. Also, he's got a huge baseball card collection that some people don't know about. And another thing, and I don't even think Lynn knows this, his future wife of tomorrow, by the way. He only wears a hat when he plays baseball. So besides our sons being friends and playing together, our daughters are also best friends, and Liz is right here. My daughter's back in New York right now. So we became friends, our wives became friends, ex-wife, and we vacationed together and grew very close. So anyway, I'll keep it short. So our love for baseball runs deep, but I think our friendship runs deeper. So with that, I'll give you Dave.
Thanks a lot, Rick. Well, can you hear me okay? Might help if I turn it on, huh? Yeah, thank you, Rick. And wow, it's great to have great friends like Rick because he makes the story sound better and better all the time as we get older. So wow, it's nice to have friends like Rick, that's for sure. And I really enjoyed and appreciated all those years that we each coached together, and our friendship remains strong. Thank you, Rick. I also wanted to congratulate all the Hall of Famers. Terry, as Terry said, Terry and I have played together on a number of teams, not only here, but in Arizona and other areas. And I think in 2016, he left his hip, part of his hip in Arizona, when he threw like 5 complete games over 2 weeks, and was just completely our MVP. So congrats, Terry. Also wanted to congratulate all the other Hall of Famers and Steve Goggins as well, and mention that Steve was on the Buzzards last year, and I was amazed coming from chemo treatments and throwing complete games in 95-degree heat. I don't even know what to say, other than Steve, our thoughts are all with you, and I just have the utmost respect. Thank you to the Hall of Fame board as well as the Sacramento Men's Senior Baseball League Board. This league is just tremendous, and I'm very humbled to be up here because there's so many great players that are deserving of this honor. So thank you, and I'm just so happy to be amongst all of you and all the great players that are here tonight. I think what Men's Senior Baseball League has done for me is bring me back to my childhood. I've never grown up because of Men's Senior Baseball League. I'm still trying to get out of doing my chores, and baseball is an excuse to do that, and I do that consistently. I'm really good at that. And it brings me back to a time where I remember, if you're familiar with Placerville, California, where Marshall Hospital sits is where my home was, a block away on Roland Street, which is now eminent domain. Marshall Hospital took everything around it, including the sandlot that we played baseball in. And it's now a parking lot. And every time I go by there, it really makes me very sad because I had such great memories from those days. And I just remember, and today reminds me of it, I remember those days when my friend Jeff Moore, I was probably an 8-year-old kid, and this kid moved in next door to me, Jeff Moore. And I remember I got to know him, and he was just like me, always trying to get out of doing his chores and getting ready to go play ball. And Jeff would give me this signal, and I'm going to attempt it today because I've already embarrassed myself enough when I'm playing in games out here, so I'm not going to embarrass myself any worse than I could do there. And I remember he would give me this signal. He would give me the caw, caw, and that meant that the coast was clear, his parents were gone, he'd done his chores, and we could go play ball. And now, nothing much has changed for me. I'm happy to say it's a text message away, a phone call away, and I've still got all these guys to go play with. And a lot of them are here. Mike Latola. I got to mention Mike because Mike and I take batting practice weekly. Not only is he a great ball player, a great friend, but when I broke my leg, which was devastating right before Phoenix, Mike was there for me and really supported me and got me through something that was very difficult for somebody who enjoys baseball as much as we all do. And I just want to say Mike's even a better person than he is a ball player, and he's a damn good ball player. So thank you, Mike, very much, and thanks for coming tonight. I also share text messages with Kenny Junkston, Terry Callahan, Taylor Wells, and more about Taylor later. But all these guys are my buddies. When they knock on my door and ask if I can come out and play, I'm ready to play, and they are too, and I really appreciate that. I have a couple of people in my families here, and that's really important, but I wanted to talk about a couple of great friends of mine who came unexpectedly, and I very much appreciate it. They're two extremely popular guys. I love to say this because it's so true. In high school, they were much more popular than I was, and fantastic guys. That's kind of an inside joke, but they really, through my junior high and then into my high school years, we had some just eventful wiffle ball games. And I know I sound like an 8-year-old, but understand that's kind of our mentality. We love to get out and play wiffle ball, and I'd like them to stand. I played basketball with them in high school. Mike James and Clark Evinger, two great friends. Would you please stand? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Great friends and great memories. I wanted to mention how lucky I've been. My teammates and coaches. It started out, Rick mentioned it, Rick got me out playing again after many years. I played college baseball, and then I didn't play for a while. I played a lot of basketball. And I was really happy when Rick and Hal Young got me out to play, and I played for the Tigers and for Fred Creel. And so I want to acknowledge Fred and thank Rick and Hal again for getting me back out playing ball. I never looked back. And I was in my 50s at that point. I also want to thank my coaches, kind of in sequential order. I then played for the A's. What an experience that was. The A's and Tribe, and of course for Joe Soto and Pat Kelly, the original great double play combination, and just had such great times with the A's and those two guys managing the team. Then to the Braves, which I still play on the Braves in the night league today. Mike Baker, who is no longer managing the Braves, but will in Arizona, and I'm so glad he's getting a chance to get a break and play, but what a gentleman. Thanks to Mayor Mike, I appreciate it. Dave Kephart with the Braves and Pirates. My current manager, Scott Reeves. Thanks so much, Scotty. You're a great teammate. And all the Braves players that I've seen here tonight. There's one guy that I need to mention before I move on that I've played next to. We're in a sense like brothers because we're kind of connected at the hip. And we played together on the Buzzards, the Braves, the Royals, the Tribe, and that's Taylor Wells, my second base partner. And we played up the middle together for years. And I want to thank him for turning all those double plays. He's made it look easy. He's a great player, a great friend, and Taylor, I tip my cap to you. Thanks a lot. From there, I wanted to move on to the Buzzards, and I'm still playing with the Buzzards on Sundays, and it's just a fantastic group of guys. We're one of the more mature teams in the league, but we're very competitive. And fortunately, Dan Wookmer, our great manager, and his beautiful wife, they've done such a great job and recruited some younger guys that have helped us a little bit this year. We needed some help. And it was great to get Kenny Junkston and Terry Callahan back. You never have enough pitching. So Dan, thank you so much, and enjoyed the Buzzards immensely. Last thing I want to do is, my family's here, and that's the most special thing. I want to just introduce them real quick and embarrass them a little bit. I'm so lucky to have such a great family, including my father, who was my high school baseball coach. And also, my father, to give you a little background, my father coached the great Gary Stonebrook in junior college, and I can tell you that he raved about Gary. He said Gary was an absolute gamer then. And he also had Don Rogers from MSBL, Ted Pert, and there's probably somebody I'm forgetting, Gary, if you think of somebody I'm not mentioning. But I wanted to mention that. And then also Steve Welch and I played Senior Babe Ruth together at Folsom Senior Babe Ruth many years ago, although Steve is still moving like a young man behind the dish. And I remember, if you remember the history of Sacramento baseball, you probably remember the great Fruit Ridge Senior Babe Ruth teams, coached by Al Simas. Meat. And I remember Steve Welch getting a big walk-off hit against them, and I can just tell you, I'm going to prop us up a little bit, Steve. We took Fruit Ridge Senior Babe Ruth out, big time, and Steve Welch won a game single-handedly himself, so that was a great memory. And I just wanted to mention that, Steve. But in regard to my family, I've got my beautiful daughter here from Denver. She's a UC Davis grad, like I remember the great Bobby Brown's brother, Steve Brown, who I had to face too many times. And she is also, my alma mater was Colorado State University, and she just recently got her master's from there. She's here from Fraser, Colorado, with her husband, Mark, who is an extreme, he's surfer, snowboarder, he's an extreme paddleboarder, stuff that I could never dream of doing. If they could both stand, I want to acknowledge them. Please stand. My son, Max, and his fiance, soon-to-be wife, and we're hoping that's going to be this coming summer. No pressure. But my son, Max, was an outstanding pitcher, lefty at Oak Ridge High School, went on and pitched at American River as a starter, and then received a baseball scholarship and played back in North Carolina as a starting pitcher where he threw 140 innings. But I got to brag for a minute, and if you can't brag about your kids, who can you brag about, right? You know, especially when it just made me think of when I look at Lanny, when I saw him with his son, Sky, and his grandson in the batting cage at McHaney Park. Hey, isn't that why we do this? That was so cool. But anyway, my son, Gary, knows this better than anybody. When my dad was coaching at Ponderosa High School in the 60s, when the school opened in 63, Gary played in the 70s at Cordova High School. Cordova High School in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, as all of you know, had more major leaguers in professional players than any high school in America. And anyway, long story short, my son, years later, in 2008, as a junior, was playing against Elk Grove High School, who is today's Cordova High School. And he threw a game at Rivercat Stadium. He lost 1-0. He scattered 5 hits on an unearned run and gave up 2 infield singles, a swinging bunt, and this is how much I remember this, and a blooper to left that his left fielder misplayed, and lost 1-0, but he was named the MVP of the game, and that was one of the best games. He struck out 9 guys, and Elk Grove High School was ranked in the top 50 in the country at that time. So Max, I'll never forget that game, and it's just another great baseball memory that we share. He's here with his fiancée, Stephanie, who just got a great job with Oracle. And please stand or wave, whatever you're comfortable with. Yes. Yes, well, I'll get to that. Well, the next is my dad. My dad was my high school coach. That can be a very, very good thing. And the good thing about that is my dad, when I wanted to play catch, he never said no. He never, ever, he always had time for me. He was the football coach at Ponderosa when they opened the school in 63. He was a baseball coach. He was a busy guy besides his teaching responsibilities, and he always made time for me. He also, in 1966, won the school's first championship, and they beat Cordova. Cordova had Jerry Manuel. That's a name that you might want to remember around here, and other great Cordova players. And they won the Golden Empire League. And then he won another championship again in 71. But my dad taught me the fundamentals of the game. And I know that sometimes I don't show those fundamentals that well on the baseball field, but it's not his fault. He taught me the correct fundamentals. And he reminds me of it all the time. And for my Braves teammates, they remember in Arizona when he told me to mix in a changeup. I couldn't get anybody out. He comes to me mixing a changeup. I struck out the next 2 batters. So my dad knew best. He's a member of the Ponderosa High School Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame dad, and he's here, and I want my dad to stand, Ray Everingham. And last, some of you have heard this before. I love the old Jim Catfish Hunter quote. So if you've heard it from me a million times, I'm sorry, but I love it so much. You know, Jim Catfish Hunter would always say, after a big win, he was so humble, so modest, and so great. I just respect him. He would say, you know what, Jim, you just won a big game for the A's. Remember those great A's teams? And he would always say, you know, sometimes the sun shines on an old dog's ass. And I got to tell you, I am now 61, and at 60, I met the most unbelievable woman, my best friend. We love everything that the other person loves together. It's so seamless, so beautiful. And I'm marrying her tomorrow. And I want to introduce my wife, and I want her to stand, Lynn Wojcik. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm humbled because there's so many great players in this league, and thanks to the Hall of Fame board and the MSBO board. Thank you. Okay, stay here. Stay here.
Yeah, we're going to put it on the platform. Oh, gotcha. You hold on to the picture. Hold it there. Hold it there. Let's get cold. Where's Janet? I need to put this up there. Sorry, bad hands. I think I did. Well, you always have to open this too, right? You were fine. Yeah. Give me your plaque, buddy.
Oh, yes.
Give me your name, please.
Great, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.